Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Long Island Legends podcast, the only podcast dedicated to showcasing the most legendary talent in our Long Island community. And today, I am joined by Mike Lewis. He is a professional land surveyor. He works for the largest geospatial firm in the country as a project manager. He enjoys archery, hunting, fishing, and mostly anything involving the outdoors. And the reason I brought him on today is because if a lot of you guys follow me, you have seen my fitness journey. And yes, it's been an incredible journey just to see how it's impacted my life. But the coolest thing about it is watching how it's impacted other people's lives. And this gentleman that I'm sitting next to today, we were just random Facebook friends. And if you guys know anything about my story, Ryan Nickel was a random Facebook friend of mine. I took inspiration from his photo. Well, this gentleman here took inspiration from me. And he didn't just lose weight. This person became the very first person to lose 100 pounds within the six-pack CEO community. He has developed quite the legendary status in the community, and I'm proud and honored to have you on. So, Michael, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is an honor, and it's a pleasure.
So, when you started this, right, just take us back to where you started in this journey, right? Where were you just kind of physically, mentally, emotionally? I have my own take on this from my own personal standpoint,
Right.
but I want to hear where you came from because you lost 100 pounds and you did it in less than a year, okay?
Yes.
And, you know me, we talked about, I love talking about the chart, right? Even mine had some bumps in it, right? The
Right.
best of the best have had like the bumps in it. Not yours. It's a straight line down. There's no movement in it whatsoever. So how did you go from that, right? When talk about just sort of where you started and then what transpired after that.
So, yeah, I did. I followed you on Facebook. I was in a place, I would say, not unlike maybe where you were. I watched some of the early videos that you had done where you said you had that one moment where there was a disagreement and you know, you looked at yourself in the mirror and you're like, what am I doing with myself?
Yeah.
I had a couple of those moments going back to probably 2023 was where I was really starting to, I was getting up in age. I'm 49, so I was 47, 48. Clothes didn't fit. I enjoy archery. I enjoy the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't walk my club. Couldn't get in a tree stand comfortably. My hunting clothes didn't fit. So things were starting to kind of, and it had always been in the back seat of my mind where you have to do something about yourself. You know, you have a family history of heart issues
Sure.
that you need to control. So
Family history of obesity or anything like that?
that's the funny thing. Not real. Well, on my dad's side of the family, yeah, it's like, oh, you have the Lewis belly, you're flat in the back, you're round in the front. My mom's side of the family, not so much, no. But I take after my father and his side of the family.
Were you into sports and athletic, fit? Would you consider yourself fit growing up or?
So that's the funny thing is if you would have seen my freshman year of high school when I played football, in my gear, I probably weighed a total of 120 pounds. I enjoyed sports. I was never the most amazing athlete because I was smaller, but I played football. I played lacrosse. I played Little League baseball. Getting out of high school, in college, I played intramural soccer and
Okay.
stuff like that. But, and I skied a lot. I
Okay.
was always what I consider a pretty good skier for somebody who never really could ice skate very well, but I could ski very well. So I had that outdoor mindset, and I would camp and I would hike and I would mountain bike. And then, but as the years went on, I let myself go. I started eating a lot more. I started working out a lot less. Never really was a gym guy, but just being
Neither
active.
was I,
Yeah, the active part of my life certainly slipped. A lot of season tickets to the Islanders. That's great. So now you're eating stadium food. You're drinking
Yeah.
a little bit more beer than you
Yeah.
should. So all of this culminated, as things are going along. Early on in 2024 in March, when I was celebrating my anniversary with my wife, let's go out to a really nice place. I like a nice steak place. My wife, she doesn't eat, red meat and stuff like that, but there's plenty of great seafood and stuff at a steak place. So, and I don't fit in anything. The only pair of pants that I kind of like and shirt, and I
Yeah.
looked like I was like bursting at the
Yeah.
seams. And I looked at that picture and I was like, there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
And now you fast forward to the irony of this whole journey, if you will, is that, in the group, they said this couldn't have happened on a better time, July 4th, the independence.
Sure.
So last year, July 4th was sort of like my second or third breaking point, if you will, where mentally and emotionally, I was just done.
Sure.
Going
sure.
to the same block party I was just at this past 4th, walking from my friend's house down the street. It's about 3/4 of a mile, pulling a wagon, and my feet hurt, and I'm tired, and I'm just looking at my shadow in the lights, and I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah, sure.
Now, I had reached out to Morrow, who's running this group, probably about 2 weeks prior. I'm like, this is it. I got to do something.
Sure.
And it still took me like a month to pull the trigger. And I watched some of your videos. I looked on the site. Can I hack it? Can I stand up to it? There was a lot of things about the group that kind of were intimidating to me. Powerful men, self-made men, successful men who all have this driven style. And the one thing that we all kind of shared in common was this, he says that a lot, is you have all these things in place, but your own personal health has gotten out of control. Sure. And how do you get that back into control?
Yeah.
So when I finally said like enough is enough, which was the tail end of it was July 23rd of last year. I'm like, I've tried other things. Nothing has worked. Okay. I got to do this.
So July 23rd, you signed up.
July 23rd is the date on that we officially consider like this is your born on date. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And then in that time, in less than a year, like I said, you've lost 100 pounds, yes. Right? And it was just like clockwork, almost like 10 pounds a month, right?
Right.
And when you saw my journey, right? I mean, how much of an impact did that have on you, right? Because there's a lot of people out there, right, that are posting, I lost weight doing this, I lost weight doing that, sure. Right? Like I'm not the only guy. I'm certainly not the first guy to go, from big belly to six pack. But what was it about what you saw with me and what was out there that made you want to take action?
So what inspired me, what you did that inspired me was, ironically, it was almost the speed at which you did it.
Sure.
Everyone has a goal in mind, but the program is designed to do things as quickly as is possible.
Yes.
And I watched your transformation, and I watched some of the before and after photos, and I was like, here's a guy who was probably not as big as I was, didn't have to lose as much weight as I was, but everything is scalable.
Yeah.
And he looks like the guy that I always sort of wanted to look like, because going back to my early years in high school, I was never a big muscular guy.
Neither was I.
I hit the gym for football, like I said, 120 pounds in my gear.
Yeah,
I wanted to be able to hit that 150 bench. I wanted to be able to do all those things. You just could never do it.
Yeah.
So watching your transformation, I said to myself, this is a program that I don't see myself being able to fail at if I give it 100% of my effort.
Yeah, and that's without a doubt the truth.
Yeah. And like I say, your transformation of going from where you were to where you ended up, and even now I watch the same thing. These last couple of years, I still look up to you and a lot of the other guys, like, because I'm starting to end that cut.
Yeah.
Soon. I don't know how soon.
It's coming. Yeah,
it is,
coming.
but
you're not
like,
there yet, but it's
no,
close,
I'm certainly not. I got a lot of work still to do, but like, I don't know what's next.
Yeah.
Can I put on this muscle? I think I can, and
Sure.
I'm going to certainly give it my effort.
Yes. So, I had just posted right before we came in here, because people do ask me, right? Well, how did you lose so much weight, right? How'd you go from being fat to fit? And honestly, in a lot of ways, it was very similar to how I got fat, right? Like it seemed fast. I think to a lot of people, it seemed fast, but it really was slow and steady. Because even what you see now, right, is 3 years in the making, right? Like
Sure.
the first 8 months, okay, we got the cut done. Since then, it's only become harder because, the muscle building part of it is a little bit more complicated and a little bit more taxing. But at the end of the day, if you start replacing the bad habits with the good habits, right? Like, I didn't get, like you said, you were a skinny kid growing up. I was skinny. I played soccer. I was active. I had a good metabolism.
Right.
I took that for granted, right? And so I developed a lot of these bad habits because it was like, well, I could just eat sort of whatever I want and be fine, right? Then in my 20s, I realized, oh, that's not working anymore. And then I kind of yo-yo dieted for 15 years, you know?
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
from
similar.
like 2005, 2006 to, yeah,
Mhm.
so maybe 17 years until 2022. It was sort of up and down, up and down. I would lose a bunch of weight, right? And then I would look pretty good, kind of back to my old self, and then I would sort of gain it back. But they were always these sort of hard and fast crash diets, right? Then I replaced it with something like this. And, my journey is a little different than yours because I wasn't off to the races the way you were, right? Like when
Yeah.
I started off the first 2 months, the scale didn't really move.
Really?
Yeah, people don't realize that. I tell people that all the time. The scale didn't really move. I had started implementing the tracking. I wasn't perfect with the tracking. I was going to the gym, which I never liked going to the gym. I was active, but I never liked going to the gym. But I was going to the gym. I was tracking my food. I was walking. But I was cheating still on meals, right?
Okay.
And the scale like wasn't moving. And I don't know if you know this story, but recently Morrow had told me like I didn't think you were gonna have the success that you
I
had.
saw that
Yeah,
when
he
yeah.
didn't think that because he was like you were kind of like for lack of a better term, fucking off. You know what I
Sure.
mean? And I was in the beginning, but I was developing some good habits: going to the gym, drinking water, walking, tracking food. Even if I was going over, I was slowly replacing those habits. And like I said, the scale didn't change. But then once I kind of got that under my belt, at least for me, I was like, okay, I could do this. Now, what happens if I go all in and give this, the utmost attention it deserves? You went all in from the very beginning, which I commend, and the results are what they are. It took me a little while to develop that,
So what was your, if I could ask and
Sure.
interrupt you real quick, what was your why? One of the things that, so my company implemented like all these different core values and stuff a bunch of years ago, and we always talk about like, what is your why? Why do
Sure.
you do what you do? So at what point in the first couple months of you being in this program did you reevaluate a why? Because you had a why going into it. What made you finally take that next step?
So for me, the why originally was vanity.
Right.
Because I had my wife telling me I looked unhealthy. I didn't like how I looked. Emotionally, I was kind of a wreck because I was going through so many hard things. And then, I saw Ryan Nichols' photo. And if you ever look, I've put it up before, and you put us up side by side,
Yeah.
our original photos, very similar. When he posted that photo of himself, I thought for a second it was me.
Oh,
Because
wow.
it was like we had like matching guts,
Mhm.
similar body types and everything. And I was like, whoa, like I look like that. I want to look like that. And something was telling me if I look like that, I couldn't tell you why, my life will get better.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'll feel better about myself. I'll have more confidence in myself. And if I can look like that, because that's how I want to look, and this is how I look now, like things will change. And I didn't understand all the reasons and why, what was going to happen and why I was going to feel different. But something inside of me was telling me. So it was strictly a vanity play. I had, I'm a real estate investor. I have private investors that put money
Sure.
with me. They were making jokes like, you want to really kind of take care of yourself a little bit. And I think some of them were worried I was going to have a heart attack,
Yeah, it's and it's
and
understandable.
it's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, we've got all our money with Jeremiah. It looks like
Right.
he's going to keel over.
Right.
So a lot of it was vanity. So that's really what it was in the beginning.
And that's funny because I'm starting to feel the same way a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I was putting my health first, my family first, trying to set example for my son who's 13.
Sure.
And break out of the mold. You had mentioned, does your family look that way? Like, I don't know how many fit people there might be in my family, but I would tend to think that right now, like me and maybe one or two other family members are probably the ones who look the
Sure.
way we do. And it's, yeah, I had mentioned that. It's funny you said that because last week I was on, one of my weekly calls with a client, and they said to me like, wow, we didn't want to say anything, but you look like you lost a lot of weight. I said, yeah, I'm pushing close to 100 pounds. And really, they're like, and why'd you do it? I said, well, like, this is one of the reasons why I'm doing it, because
Sure.
when I have a Zoom call or whatever you want to have kind of call with a client, the first impression is a big impression.
Yeah,
And
sure.
this large company that I work for now, with again a lot of important, powerful people that we talk to, I'm trying to change the first impression that
Of
people
course.
have of me because they don't know me. A lot
Yeah.
of people do not know me.
Yeah. And so obviously, a little big part of my business is branding, right?
Right.
I would not be doing this podcast right now if I looked the way I looked, because I hated how I looked.
You mentioned that.
I would get video footage of myself and I would throw it away. And I always joke, the video person, whoever it was, be like, the camera, it adds 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'd say, well, unless you were filming with 10 cameras, you're not really making me
Yeah.
feel any better, right? So I would hate how I looked. And making content and putting yourself out there is important for my business.
Absolutely.
And so I was reluctant to do that. So like I said, overall, pretty much a vanity play. Since then we could talk about this for hours, the ways it's impacted my life, the example I've set for my son, just the hormonal balance that, the emotional maturity, right? All of those things that come into play, which I never even thought about, right? Yes, it was like, oh, I want to set a better example for my kids, but I was just like, oh, my kids will love me no matter what, so that's not going to matter. But then you see, wow, like, I see how this is like impacting them. So you take that for granted.
My son has, I get emotional when I talk about my son, and I don't care. I'll cry for the camera, but my son has been championing this for the last. It's been, I guess, like 4 or 5 days since the 4th of July.
Sure.
When I had that moment that morning, and then he was asleep, I was going for, it's awesome, great stuff. I got to do a 4.5 mile walk. It's my thing. It's a day off. And I left him a little note, and his text message reply to me was like just a big heart. He's like, you did it.
Yeah.
And like that really hit, that was a big one for me.
Yeah.
And that's one of my whys. Yeah.
What were your biggest fears or hesitations when you started? Right?
Yeah.
Because it's a big financial investment.
The financial investment was a motivator, and it was a fear factor for me. I am a bit of a humble guy. Certainly not as financially successful as a lot of the guys in the group, which was part of the intimidation factor. But I was not sure. The money is one thing. If I can't afford it, then I have the honest conversation. You can't afford it, and I find something else. But for me, I was making an investment in myself, and that's the way it's pushed. You're making an investment in yourself, in your life, in your health. So I wasn't so concerned about the investment. I was concerned about, can I get the maximum return on my investment? Am I going to be able to track my meals correctly? How am I going to figure out how to meal prep? Going to the gym. Those first couple days in the gym, am I going to be able to do these exercises, figure these exercises out? I got to walk 10,000 steps a day. I have to reschedule, figure out a timeline, still have to work, still have to get the school work done with my son, and so on and so forth. And it was, I was not 100% certain if, and not knowing the people in the program, my coaches and all the other things. So I was a little apprehensive. I would say for the first, month, 2 weeks into the program, I had my 30th high school reunion, and I went to this reunion. It was like, oh, what are you doing? I got on this new workout program, and I'm going to try to lose weight. And, even all my friends, we've heard all that before, and we've all tried it. And, just love yourself and blah, blah, blah. But that was, I was afraid at first that I was going to fail.
Sure.
And then if I failed, I was going to fail my coach, I was going to fail my family, and I was going to fail myself.
Yeah.
That was a certain driving factor that I lean on.
The price had a big role, and I've spent money on a lot of different things over the years. I'm not afraid to spend money, but that was the most I had ever spent for physical fitness, right?
Same.
And so that was like, hey, I got to take this seriously, right? I had done, your Optavia and Isogenics and this and that and this diet, and I've tried a bunch of different things, but it was a lot of money. So I don't care how much money you make, like the number is, it's not cheap. Like it gets your attention. You know what I mean?
And that was definitely something that even to this day, it's you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to your wallet if you want to look at it that way.
Yes.
To not just, throw your money away for nothing, which I've certainly done. Like you've said it, I've done the same thing.
Yeah.
And what sets this program apart from all the rest is not even just so much the investment, it's the accountability.
Yes.
That the investment kind of provides to you when you don't even realize it.
Yes. And the other thing is, especially now with things like AI, ChatGPT, right? The information to lose weight is out there.
Oh, sure.
It's out there. You know what I mean? And I've been saying this now for a while, that like information is, becoming less and less valuable, right? And what is becoming valuable is implementation, right? Though not everything is there. It's the ones that are, the smartest person in the world, right? Like you've got ChatGPT that can match
Right.
the smartest person in the world at your fingertips. So knowledge doesn't really account for much, but the ability to implement, right? And so you've had the right coaches, you know, they've obviously pushed you, but from the looks of things, it sounds like they didn't really need to do that much, right?
No, I don't, and I mentioned that to my coach on Friday morning when I weighed in, and I said we had our call. I said, like, why me?
Yeah.
What is it about me that made me this, this successful? And it's funny because he goes, well, what's Jeremiah going to say when he sees the chart? I said, he's going to say the same thing he always says. Like, it's an amazing chart. It's a beautiful chart. But like, why am I the one? What did I do? And he kind of explained to me like what I did.
Yeah.
It was pretty humbling.
Yeah. When you started, right?
Yeah.
I mean, again, I was not a gym guy. Did not like going to the gym. The only thing I would go to the gym and do the elliptical. Like when I
Sure.
did my yo-yo diets, if I would go to I would try to, eat healthy, go on the elliptical. That was the, essence of, my fitness journey. Was not a guy that lifted. How did it feel when you first started, right? Did you feel good about it? Was it intimidating?
It was intimidating.
It was, right?
It was very intimidating because now you're in a gym and I look, you got the mirrors everywhere and I'm like, oh, great. Here's this out of shape guy who's trying to take control of himself.
Were you at a gym where there was a lot of fit guys, or was it kind of a?
Yeah, it was. It's a branded gym.
Okay.
Yeah, I go to a branded gym not far from here. And yeah, it was whatever time it was in the morning. So you got the guys that are committed and the women that are committed are going at 5:30 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and. Yeah, it was certainly something. I wasn't new to the gym. I was new to having structured routine in the gym. And when again, a humbling experience. Whatever exercises they were that I started out with, I couldn't tell you, but I was like,
it's usually the full body work.
and it was barely like, really, I can only, like, I remember in high school I could bench 100 pounds and now I'm barely doing like 75, 80 pounds.
Yeah.
So there was some humbling experiences in the gym. Yeah.
So, it's funny, right? When I started, I started at Planet Fitness.
Okay.
Did that for a couple of months. Then I went and bought a tonal machine and switched to just doing strictly the tonal because the Planet Fitness, the way it was just set up and the way the gym was so crowded, I didn't
right.
like it. But there was no bench there's no bench at Planet Fitness.
Right.
The only thing there is a Smith machine.
You got the Smith machines, right?
So either I would do that or I would do a dumbbell bench press. I think dumbbell bench press, I was doing 40 pounds each, 45 pounds each, right? I curl that now. You know what I mean? Like, so.
It's humbling.
It's humbling, but, I don't know if you do this, but I go into Trainerize a lot of times and because it'll give you the history.
I do.
On the workout, and you see that number go up. And we talk about the scale and the chart.
Yeah.
But now, especially, and you'll notice this when you get into the muscle building stage, like those are the numbers you watch. You know what I mean?
It's
and
true.
It becomes laughable. Like these numbers that I could barely do, like they're either warm-ups for me now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's some exercises where I've 3x'd, the amount of weight that I can do.
That's great.
Now it's been the same exercises that I have done, since the very beginning, but and now, you go to, when I used to go to the gym, right, I used to I was so reluctant because, I record a lot of my workouts now, and I was doing that here and there when I first started, but I'd be so reluctant. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to put this camera here. Hope nobody looks at me. Now I don't give a shit.
I'm in that phase right
Yeah.
now. I had a guy at the gym a couple weeks ago, and he's like, I'm sitting there getting ready to go, and he says, the camera's, you're using the reverse lens, right? It's not looking at me. And I'm like, swear to God, because he was, out like this. I'm like, no, I swear to God, you can take a look. He's like, oh, I just wanted to make sure, I'm like, why would I be videotaping your workout? But anyway, I was.
Now I do it all the time. Now I don't care.
No, I
don't
care now either.
Because now it's like, I'm proud to say it's like one of the fitter guys in the gym.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, you want to say something to me? Like, fine. And it's and this is why, like, I've gotten to that point because I'm constant. And if somebody asks, I'm like, I have a virtual trainer that I work with. I videotape the workouts.
Right.
And
That's a good idea. I like that.
And then he gives me, feedback on it,
It's funny what you mentioned about looking at the workouts, because today I started a new, my gym session this morning was a new like 7-week routine.
Sure.
And some of the machine exercises repeated themselves that I haven't done in a while. So I was like, oh, okay, the last time I was pushing this weight, but it's been a couple months or whatever, a couple weeks rather. And well, let me see if I can get close to what that weight was. And I didn't get the same exact number, and I was doing a little bit of a deload. I kind of modified it, but yeah, I was still, I did. I looked back at where I started, where I was at, and where I was at today.
Yeah.
And it is refreshing to see that at least some progress in muscle building has
without a
taken place.
doubt. And like a lot of times, like I'll look and because I could see like where I left off from months ago, and it's very hard because that's like the top end. That's at the best of that particular routine. Right. So when you start up again, you'll take a little bit of a step back, but then you'll see by the time this is done, you'll have this 6-week set is done. You'll have already, you'll have surpassed that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
it's exciting.
And so that's a thing that I talk about, in my business, right? It's very up and down, right? Like it's an emotional roller coaster.
Sure.
And that's the life of an entrepreneur. With fitness, right? It's like it is guaranteed to work if you put the effort in.
Sure.
Right? Like it's very rare. Very few things in life are guaranteed. But like this is one where like you do X, you'll get Y.
It's true.
Right? And you watch this slow, steady progression. And I talked about this in a presentation I gave a few months ago where like for me, having that daily steady progression is very, very supportive because like as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you're on your own a lot of times. Right?
Yeah.
Like and you're, it's lonely. And so you don't feel like you have any support.
Right. You've got your support structure of whatever it is. And
whatever it is.
You
watching
building,
that.
Yeah, you've got to build your brand. Sure.
Exactly. So in less than a year, you've lost 100 pounds.
Yes.
Just talk about your daily routine because obviously you've been the most consistent person. Forget about the number.
Right.
Just pure consistency, the most consistent person that this group has ever seen. What did that routine look like for you?
So it was certainly in the beginning, obviously, you try to figure out, the X's and the Y's, if you will. And my daily routine essentially is unchanged in the sense that it's my shake in the morning for breakfast, my proteins and your collagens and all that. If it's a gym day, I add in some honey, I add in a banana.
Yeah.
Lunch was always like and it was about like, how do I manage my time? So lunch, I always meal prepped. Usually it was like that morning.
Okay. So you didn't meal prep for a week. It was just
that was one of those things that ironically, probably around like February or March of this year, where I was finally like, dummy, you can like, listen to what everyone's been saying to you for the last couple weeks, months, however it's been. But yeah, I would sort of meal prep. I would have like, I'm going to have chicken. I had the idea in my head, but was it physically made? No. So it was always for a while I was doing like Icon meals or Factor meals or whatever some of the local places are where you can stop in and grab
that's
something,
what
right?
I did. That was my thing.
And you had given me that suggestion somewhere along the way, like try for lunches, try finding the pre-planned meals with the calories and all the macros laid out for you. So, but my daily routine was always the same. It was stick to the plan that they gave you. Have your breakfast routine. Your lunch, hit that chicken, beef, whatever it happens to be, the ounces, stay away from the starchy carbs and the fruits. I've always liked, broccoli and carrots and green beans and stuff like that. So the vegetables were never a problem. And then dinner was always about, early on, I was always like, come dinner time, like, wow, I don't have nearly enough healthy fats. The carbs are real easy to hit.
Sure.
And the protein is real easy to hit because I can eat chicken, steak, fish all day long. So right now, to fast forward to what's worked, especially the last couple months, is I did start meal prepping, and the people I work with, oh, Mike's got his hamburger patty with his carrots and his broccoli again. But people in the office, and I bounce around when I tell these things.